Mates, here's the second video. So I'm at where I left off, number 10. So we're gonna move on. Yeah, I had to really split up the video because trying to do all the trees in one video is just gonna take way too long. All right, so we are looking at a sweet gum, and they call it a sweet gum because they actually produce these fruits later on, and kind of like a ball shape, but then they have like a bunch of spikes on the outside. Kind of reminds you of those movies where they have where assassins have the spike ball running around, swinging it around. Kind of reminds you of that in an instant. That's the best way I can describe it, because they're not quite ready yet, because it's still a little early. Sweet gum though. And the leaves also kind of have a palmate formation, very lobed too. And rest assured, it's not 420, mates. I had to throw that little joke in there. Alrighty. So number 12, I believe we are looking at an Ohio Buckeye. Reason I know that this is an Ohio Buckeye is same thing. It has a palmate formation, so there's up to 5 leaves. And not only that, but the leaves and their stems are directly opposite of each other, too, in terms of arrangement. And usually, the Ohio Buckeye, it doesn't get like too tall either. It's mostly like an understory type of tree. So moving on, number 13, I think we are looking at, based on the bark that's kind of shedding, it looks like, similar to the shagbark hickory. This is a Kentucky coffee tree. And same thing, it's also a pinnate formation, and this time the leaves have a more of a teardrop shape associated. So it's also a pinnate arrangement as well. And they actually do produce these little beans that kind of remind you of looking at coffee beans, hence how the tree got its name. All right. We're looking at number 14. Based on the initial shape of the leaves, kind of has like a lobed appearance. It's reasonable to say that this is a tulip poplar. As you can tell, too, since it falls within the magnolia family, it kind of has like a flower here. That reminds you of looking at a magnolia, hence its name. These are well-known trees in the state of Ohio, and many of them can be as old as 300 years old. So they have some age. Alrighty. Number 15, also based on the smooth bark, kind of has a brown, and then underneath is a bit of white. And also their leaves too. Their leaves can be absolutely huge once they reach full maturity. So I am going to say that this is an American sycamore. Yes. Okay. Moving on to number 16. We've got ourselves another type of oak. This is specifically the bur oak. And what's neat about the leaf, too, is it's kind of like skinny on the bottom, but then it gets fatter towards the top. Kind of reminds you of looking at something like a bobblehead. I think that's what they're called. So that is a bur oak. Yep. Alrighty. Moving on to number 17. Oh, here we are. So based on the sheer size of these leaves, kind of reminds you of looking at a heart. It is reasonable to say that we are looking at a catalpa. And catalpa, they also produce these long seed pods. Let me see if I can pull it off, maybe. Or maybe not. Hold on. Oh, well, the whole thing winded up coming off. That's my bad. Well, this is what their seed pods look like when they are in maturity during the fall. And they also produce these elegant flowers too, especially during this time of the year. And they're also known to have a whorled, W-H-O-R-L-E-D, whorled. So that means, let's see if we can find an example. Yeah, so you have two that are alternate, and then there's a third one here that usually protrudes, such as right here. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but yep. And they're like one of the only trees that has like a whorled arrangement. Okay, let's move on to number 18. Okay, we got ourselves a swamp white oak. Same thing. It looks very similar to the bur oak, but here's a difference. Instead of being like skinny, very skinny at the bottom, it's kind of intermediate. But then towards the top, it has a very similar shape as that of the bur oak. And what's neat about the swamp white oak is usually you can find these along marshes. Hence how the tree really got its name. And as you can tell, the bark on some spots looks a bit whiter as well. So that's another distinction. All right, moving on to number 19, we've got ourselves a black walnut. Same thing, also pinnate, but the leaves are slightly larger too. And on the bark, it has a bit more of like a cross pattern, as you can see. And these are the trees that produce your famous walnuts that are indeed edible. Number 20, we've got ourselves the sugar maple. And reason I know too is with the sugar maple, there are 5 points. So there's one here, second one is here, third one is at the center, fourth, and fifth. So this is the sugar maple, where we get our famous maple syrup. Ah, this is actually a tree I worked on last Friday, as a matter of fact. So this is number 21. You know, based on the fruit that's here, it kind of looks like a chandelier, and the asymmetrical base of the leaf that is highly toothed. This is an American basswood. Okay, moving on to number 22. Ah, that's my age. This is a young wild black cherry. So eventually, this is kind of like a juvenile tree, but once it matures, the bark will have a more like a burnt frosted flakes appearance. That's how I associate. And they actually do produce these little cherries. However though, you really don't want to feed them to your livestock because they are indeed poisonous. So just something worth noting. Alrighty, so here, number 23, we've got ourselves the blue beech, which is also known as ironwood or even musclewood, because if you look at the wood itself, kind of reminds you of looking at muscle fibers from the human body. And not only that, but I believe another name for this tree is the hornbeam as well, I believe. But they produce these unique shaped fruits that kind of reminds you of looking at a bunch of flags, or even hats too. Alrighty. I know, mates, this is 2 long videos, but there's quite a few trees here. So 25 and 26, as a matter of fact, these are both black gum. And they also, I believe, are known to produce these little ball-shaped fruits, similar to that of the sweet gum, as I mentioned in earlier in the video. And as you can see too, the leaves also have a bit of a teardrop shape associated too. All right, last but not least, we can finally finish this video. And forgive me for the length, but there's so many trees to point out. So last but not least, this is the Shingle Oak. I know that because the leaves kind of remind you of looking at maybe like a cucumber or something. Maybe that's like the first thing that came to mind in my head. And you know, it looks rather glossy on the top, but then you go on the bottom and it's a bit more rough. And they're the only known oak to have such a shape in terms of their leaves. So that is the Shingle Oak. Alrighty, so real quick, we're gonna go up to the sign and let's see how we did. Alrighty, so let's see. You guys are more than welcome to pause the video and just let me know how I did. And I believe I got all of them right. So, alrighty. I thought I would share that with you guys. Hope you learned something. Yeah, I definitely had to break this up into 2 videos or else this would have been 20-some minutes long. I mean, even this video is capping out at 12 minutes. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And once again, Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks.